Hello, coasters. Welcome to a special edition of the Sonic Coast to Coast podcast. This is a kind of a quick special. Um, as you probably well aware of, they released the new trailer for the Sonic movie 3 today, earlier about 12 plus hours ago. Uh, Radrey, how are you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Uh, Busy day at work. It was fun watching all the people react to the trailer. The Sonic fans were obviously, they were super happy. It was interesting seeing some non-Sonic fans, but more of just movie people review it and see what their thoughts were. They seemed to really enjoy it too. So, yeah, it was. I know we talked about it on our last pod, which probably at the time of this recording, you've probably, haven't heard it because we're still editing it. Uh, but last week they released a bunch of posters, and they've released like four more posters today. They seem to have posters for everything now. It's crazy. But on Thursday they did a special like little gift to Sonic YouTuber influencers. It was a little functioning Sega Genesis cartridge where you could load up and look at some Sonic 3 stuff, and then basically it also gave you the trailer date, which was today, and it's been released, and we're here to talk about it. Radri and I just watched it, though I will admit I've seen it probably like 4 or 5 times. But yeah, what were your initial thoughts, Radri?
On the trailer? Looks
Yeah,
good.
looks good.
I know
Anything
it's a
jump
very
out to
simple way to
you?
go into it, but yeah, it looks good.
All right. Well,
I
let's
could elaborate
you
if you want.
All right. Well, let's kind of like for the most part, kind of give our thoughts as we kind of go through the trailer. Some of the big beats, comedic moments, or subject to comedic moments. Kind of we can kind of you know give our thoughts. So it opens up pretty standard, basically them running around as kind of the start, but then it goes directly into the Chow Garden, little restaurant, Chuck E. Cheese. And it's funny because you have see all the various Chow, and there's even a Knuckles Chow like right behind Knuckles, and no one even blinks an eye. But you have these two little girls come up to Tails and ask him if he's Detective Pikachu. Now Knuckles just finds this hilarious because he says he does look like a Tails looks like a Pokemon and says Pika Pika. So there are two really hilarious things. The fact that somehow in their short term on Earth, Sonic and company now know what Pokemon is, or Knuckles knows what Pokemon is.
I'm gonna chime in here a bit. Is this a meta joke? Because you know how
Well,
unpopular Sonic is in Japan. So
here's the funny thing is I didn't realize it until someone kind of mentioned it on Twitter later is this might be actually a Sonic Easter egg. Because if you remember, people remember on the April Fool's Day Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog game that they released, Amy's murder mystery birthday party,
yeah.
Tails played the role of the detective.
Hmm.
So technically he is a detective. Now, whether he looks like Pikachu, that's up for debate, but I gotta admit, I laughed. I thought it was hilarious.
It sort of reminds me of like the first Spider-Man movie, right? The one by Sam
Yeah,
Raimi, where like
yeah.
they reference and they say, you're not Superman, Like, can they actually do that? Reference other IP in an IP? I guess they can. So, because
Well, maybe this is the beginning of the Smash Brothers initiative. They're all blend them all
that's
together.
true.
I
Maybe
don't know.
maybe that might become a thing. Who knows?
But that being said, I think because Nintendo and Sega have collaborated on those Sonic and Mario Olympic games for so many years, I feel like they probably have a fairly decent working relationship. So
Hmm.
I think people are kind of just thinking like, oh my god. But I thought it was a funny joke. I saw some people said it was cringe, but I think that was kind of the whole point.
Okay.
um, Kind of moving on. So again, the whole character garden restaurant, that's very Japan, and yeah,
As I was saying in a prior podcast, it's very much Kawaii Monster Cafe. But
Kawaii Monster Cafe.
I mean, obviously it's taking place in Japan, and I mean, there's a, I mean, Sonic gives us a joke, a Konichi wow, or what did he say? I only watched the trailer
Konichi,
once.
what?
Yeah, that's what it
Like
was.
he's
Yeah.
like, it's pretty bad, but it's pretty funny.
Well,
Then they have this picture of like guns surrounding Shadow in the rain, but then it cuts to a really interesting thing that I didn't catch the first time.
mm-hmm.
You see Gerald in what looks to be like a prison jumpsuit, looking at like a drawing on his cell wall, so kind of a nice little allusion to SA2, which we're kind of see the space colony arc / eclipse canon. So kind of the diagram for that. There's some fun little lines. Keanu says, "At last we will have our revenge." It feels very Star Warsy, and then you see the scene where like,
Back to Star Wars
yeah,
again.
yeah, Star Wars, Sonic can't escape it. We get a little continuation. We find out again, Eggman and Gerald have decided to team up, and then Shadow kind of unleashes this thing that opens up a little what looks to be a black hole, but then they kind of like kick out a ring and pop up back in Green Hills. It's I want to say because a lot of people have talked about, and I know you've talked a lot about this in our Discord, is the human characters of all about Wade, the flames of disaster, yada yada, all the things that Paramount has kind of burned us on over the last. They're barely in this trailer. And I'm curious to see how much of a role they actually have.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like if you make a movie about minions, right? You got to put minions in the front. It's not
Yeah.
all about Gru, right? Even though technically the story is about Gru, right? And about how he, actually, I'm kind of out of my element. I've never seen a Minions movie, but
I've
I
like
imagine
I've
that's what
never
it's about. What?
well, it was like Despicable Me, and then they made the Minions or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's technically who they are. They're just kind of like the foreground or the background characters, not foreground. Um, because yeah, I generally think that because this is the IP that Paramount bought, so they need to put front and center. This is their Tickle Me Elmo or their Furby that they need to
Exactly.
push up front. You're not interested in the people who made the Furby or the Tickle Me Elmo.
But yeah,
So
we see like all the Wachowski and the extended Wachowski. They're all in gun uniforms, so I think they're doing some like undercover mission. Apparently, Tails now has equipped a jetpack to his backpack, and so that's kind of interesting. So we're gonna skip ahead because again, most people probably seen this, and a couple other funny points is that we do see them use the eclipse cannon on the moon. So they're straight up pissing on the moon. It's real now. America's gonna watch them blow up the moon.
hmm
Hilarious. And they even give Shadow his gun. So not only does he get his motorcycle, he gets his gun. So it's like all we need is him to say damn, and then they've pretty much checked off all the major Shadow 5 boxes.
Well, it is rated PG, so they could do that. You can say
I could
damn in
do
a
it. I
PG
could.
movie. According to YouTube, damn is not a cuss word, so you can say that one.
We'll find out.
I mean,
I feel like
that's
that's
what
more
beavers
subjective
use,
than the.
to build
That's true.
their houses, or is it their house?
Yeah, their little lodge.
Yeah. Okay. I watched Angry
Let me ask you.
Beavers. I remember that show.
I did watch. I do remember watching Angry Beavers. That's a funny little show. I want to ask you on a little costume design option.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think of Eggman's new game biblically accurate game suit?
I didn't even notice. It's biblically accurate.
I
I
mean, if
definitely.
it
It's
well, I
what?
was gonna say, it's the game suit. The color is a little different, but everything else is pretty much spot on.
Okay. I see. Uh, well, I mean, I'm guessing that's pretty cool. I mean, this whole take with Jim Carrey, what he's doing with the whole Eggman, it's just an entirely different take. I mean, it's like it's Jim Carrey's Robotnik. So I mean, uh,
What's going
it's
to be interesting is how he's going to, kind of blend it into versus his what his take on Gerald's going to be. Because I
okay.
think it's pretty clear that, Gerald is going to be the big bad of the film.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's very clever what they're doing. Especially with the whole. I like Sonic's line where he says, "There's two Eggmen now." So, yeah. I mean, I guess from what I've seen, from what this trailer looks, this final trailer, hats off to the
I wouldn't say
creators.
final yet because they usually always they'll throw out more.
Well, doesn't it say final trailer? What is this, Jason Voorhees thing? The final
eh,
Friday. No,
Sonic takes Manhattan.
Sonic takes Manhattan. Well, I mean, I'm just reading what they're sending me, so.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I guess it's like somebody who, like an artist, like making drawing something. Final version, part 3, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
well, because yeah, what I was trying to say was, yeah, if this is the quote unquote final trailer, um, I'm impressed. I'm impressed they can pull it off a third time, and they have enough content, to remix the Sonic franchise into like a story that's digestible for everyone. Because I would argue that's really hard to do.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. It's a niche franchise. Like, yes, Sonic is one of the gaming greats. Like, he's on gaming character Mount Rushmore, but his history of the actual quality of the games is really up and down. But for them, again, it's also one of those interesting, strong things about the character is that again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Sonic has almost had more success outside of the video game medium than he has in the video game medium.
yeah, yeah, that's fair.
I'm actually I'm actually a little surprised though. There is something that definitely kind of surprised me, something that they actually decided to hold back on. I'm actually really surprised that they didn't hint at Supersonic or Super Shadow. Like some people have kind of maybe kind of pointed a little bit of like, oh, this random thing is this, kind of, how it's like everything is so dissectable now. It's like, you know, is this photo edited? What's that reflection in his eye? And so,
Well, yeah, that's just the world we live in today. But yeah.
yeah. But I'm really curious to see how it pans out. I got a kick out of it. I will also admit I'm kind of a little bit underwhelmed with it. It's like I both
Oh,
enjoyed
really?
it and I thought it was really pleasant, but it's kind of like, maybe it's just because I'm already in. I mean, I've already bought my ticket, so it's kind of like, yay, it's fun to see it. I think visually it looks great. It was actually fun hearing Keanu say some more lines because it felt like, I mean, obviously, he's got the motorcycle, he's got the gun, he's basically John Wick the Hedgehog. But the line where Sonic's chasing after him, and he quips like, "Oh, how do you get who does your highlights?" And he Shadow's just like, "The more you talk, the more I just want to hit you harder." You can hear some interesting vocal inflections. Like this is kind of like he's legitimately annoyed. So kind of
Hmm.
fun. Though another Eagle Eye person mentioned that there's a brief cut into him and Maria sitting in some flowers that looks extremely like the scene from Dark Beginnings, which is really weird because that just came out like a couple months ago. So,
Well, I'm sure they're
so
all, shaking hands with each other behind closed doors.
oh, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, according to it is has over 4.1 million views on YouTube alone in 12 hours.
Hmm.
It's number 2 on trending. The only thing out trending it is Kendrick Lamar. So, eh.
Who's that again?
Which the rapper.
I know, I'm joking.
Well, now that you think about it, because this kind of, I don't know if we want to talk about this now, but one of the things they also released last week was the theme song or like the main song by Jelly Roll. Kind of this
You really
pop
want to get into
country
this?
song.
I could be here all day. I could probably do an entire podcast on just this. But
You probably
yeah.
would. It's just kind of funny. It's like, well, if these are the popular, if these are the songs, if that's the only thing out trending Sonic, then maybe they're onto something with their song collection, even if it's kind of a little bit of an out there.
Well, I have
Go ahead.
thoughts on this. I think we should save it for another day.
You know what? We can save that for another day because
Yes,
I
yes.
do kind of want to hear your rant because
Oh, I got a lot of things to say.
I find the rant people are. I mean, I think people are just blowing it out of proportion and just seeing people like laugh about it. It's freak out. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, is this really that big of a deal to some people? Okay.
Well, it's like, I don't know, changing one line of dialogue that just takes somebody out of it. But again, all right. So I want to go through my initial reaction to the trailer because
Mhm.
I have opinion, so I could say it here. Yeah, it looks good. I said that already, but I have to probably elaborate why I think it looks good, and I can say this, because most people like a chef or a professional, when somebody says something's good, what does that actually mean? Like, because I will state this, and I'll say it 100 times that I went to school for videography. I studied film. I wrote screenplays. I've worked in some Japanese film sets before. I've actually made, I've localized movies. I've been in front of the camera, been behind the camera. I've done commercials for Daihatsu. I've done one for a candy bar in Japan. I've been in a couple. I've
Which
been an
these
extra.
are on your YouTube channel.
Actually, they're not on my YouTube
Oh,
channel. I mean, I should put them on there. I guess as an advertisement, get more people involved. But anyway, um, from pinpointing the way the trailer is, it does a really good job of not revealing too much. Because I remember like the Amazing Spider-Man. I remember when that came out. The trailer itself was. I remember watching that, thinking, "Well, now I don't even need to see the movie now." Luckily, this does not do that. This adds enough flavor to it to where it's trying to get fans who are already interested in Sonic and trying to sort of show us like a kind of a new story, putting kind of old new wine in an old bottle, because it has a very strong foundation based upon getting not only older fans but newer fans involved, which I think is also very, very difficult. Because as we've seen time and time again from like Hollywood, they're sometimes very tone deaf and out of touch. Like they give us these things that we never asked for, you know, like I don't know. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's several movie
but yeah,
properties.
it's like we didn't ask for this adaptation. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know, a Han Solo movie. I mean, did people want that, or maybe they did? I don't. I'd have to think about it. But there's been several times in Hollywood I've done things to where you don't really know that they don't seem they seem like out of touch with like modern audiences. But I feel like this one actually it does a pretty good job of trying to introduce this character of who is Shadow. They don't try to do the Spider-Man 3 route to where like they put way too many villains or way too many characters in it. I mean, they're kind of doing this, with adding an extra Eggman, but this is kind of like a mirror image of Eggman. It's kind of like a family-related Eggman. So I think it'll work in this regard.
Well,
Because
it's one of those things where like Gerald was basically kind of a one and done character. I mean, obviously Sega, referenced him a few times as, they made some more games, but he was always a dead character. So it's kind of like, we didn't really get to see him really at all much until Shadow Generations. So this is kind of interesting to see, what his take on and the fact that he's still alive when normally he's dead. I know some people are still obviously upset that Amy and Rouge aren't in there, and I'm kind of with them, but at the same time is like I kind of see what kind of story they're trying to tell, and I think for that kind of story, they do kind of have to lock in on the hedgehogs, Sonic and Shadow, you know, and just adding some extra might dilute it a little much, but we'll see how it goes. I could be wrong. Maybe they do show up and they just like, we're not telling y'all anything.
I gotta tell you, one thing I'm very surprised with this movie is they seem to have a really good handle on not pissing off the fans. Because I've seen too many instances where like Sonic creators do one thing or one line or like one mistake, and they're just like, I'm done with Sonic. I'm done with this stuff. I'm done with everything. But like with the movies, it seems like I don't know how they do it. Like maybe they have like a team or something, like a PR team that goes through. Well, how do we brace for fan engagement? How do we,
Well, it's actually interesting you mention that because a lot of companies do that. They have. There's a funny story that has kind of circulated around the internet, kind of for a lot of and this has been verified by various Disney creators, is that like whenever you get like a new show that comes out that becomes like popular,
Mm-hmm.
that they kind of tell you, okay, this is what's gonna happen, this is what you're gonna have to deal with. Like, um, there was a story I think again told by Kaiser Neko from Team Four Star. He met the guy who made like American Dragon, Jake Long, the old cartoon from the 2000s, and even some of the modern ones have kind of said they've had the same conversation. Is that like Disney will basically come up and says people will be obsessed with the work, and you better be prepared because they'll draw porn of all your characters.
Oh yeah, well that's the story. Everybody likes going back to that one. I hear that more than just from you, like from other
Yeah.
people. So it's one of
So it's
those
like,
like open secrets, right?
yeah. So it's obviously like, you know, they're, all, and this is just the various studios, they're prepping. It's like, okay, this is how you handle some weird shit that's going to be asked. And again, Sonic fans are kind of cuckoo in some aspects.
I
So
would really like to be in the room to see what it is and how they analyze this stuff. Or if like maybe there's like a YouTube video somebody could point me to how they brace for fan interaction, especially nowadays. Like I don't even know how you handle because like what is it like because you can't control the narrative. It's like a one person identity. How do you control all that? I'd be
oh
fascinated.
yeah,
Anybody in the comments or people outside there who have info on this, I would like inquiring minds would like to know.
well, it's also kind of interesting, kind of going back to Jeff Fowler, the director, and obviously we all know by now he used to work for Blur Studios. His name is in the credits of Shadow 05, and one of the little teasers, like thing, prep things that they started like flooding TikTok with yesterday was a scene like, you know, Sonic says, "Oh yeah, he can't take all three of us," and then they basically mimic the opening of Shadow 5, where you see Sonic kind of fall over, exhausted, and you see Shadow with the gun behind him. But they kind of they have is like, okay, he could take all three of us, and he fall down, and so there's a lot of Shadow 05 in this. It's kind of funny,
I'm
but again,
pretty
it just
sure
kind of
this
shows
is another PR decision where it's like, okay, the fans will obviously, they'll
they'll know
they'll
this.
do all the work for us. We don't even need to, juxtapose any of these for like people to see because they'll do it for us, and plus that already gives us, recognition with people who are already familiar with it. Sort of like using the fans as
It's
like
free
more of like
marketing.
a giant or it's free marketing. It's a bigger megaphone for people who probably, who are terminally online like myself to like say, hey, I
Exactly.
remembered that, shit like that. So
Well, that's about all I got to say. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, I could dissect this from like frame by frame, but I don't have time for that. But I mean, overall, I'm just gonna leave it as Radrey says it's good, and that's about. I actually am enticed to see it. It's not one of these like, well, I guess I'll watch another Sonic thing. It doesn't make me feel that way, so that's good.
Okay.
It's a good way
Yeah.
to start my day because it's 11:37 a.m. here in Japan, so the last thing I want is somebody, watching a trailer and like, dude, this looks awful, right?
So let me
this
ask you
doesn't this
this,
doesn't make me say that. So this is good.
just kind of a random question, because I
Yeah.
know you're going on vacation toward the end of the month. You'll be
Yes.
back in the States.
Yes.
Are you interested in seeing the Japanese dub versus the English when it
I
comes
mean,
out? Are you just
could.
kind of, yeah? I'm just curious because
Would
if
you
you
want
if
me
you
to
were,
do that? I could do that. The problem is
I
that I
mean,
often don't watch dubs because
mm,
um unless I really love the movie, then I'll do it. Like, what is it? I have like Goodfellas dubbed, right? I watch that Japanese just to learn certain things, and because I love the story and I love the movie, right? But
good movie.
it's like, but if I'm going to be watching this like multiple times and I love the movie, then I would do it. But I'd really have to love it.
Okay.
Or maybe I'd background watch it or something. But or unless they add something new to it that's like different. For example, like a Sonic X thing. Sometimes like Sonic X has like kind of a they really had to localize that one for
Well, it's for kids.
international audiences. So that would be an interesting dissection. But
Yeah, for,
I'm not the biggest fan of Sonic X, so it's
oh,
not like I really
I
want to
I'm
sit
actually
down and
kind of
watch
looking
and
forward to.
juxtapose both of them. So
Speaking of Sonic X, I'm looking forward to eventually when we hit that sometime in 2025, I think, because again, I'm not a biggest fan either, but it's been so long since I've seen it. It'd be interesting, for us to like, hey, because one of the great things about us and about this podcast is we're pretty open on our biases, but we're also pretty open to, changing it. Like we're not, there are a few things that will like, you know, these are the hills we're gonna die on. It's like, okay, maybe, we see things differently now.
yeah,
So
maybe
yeah, maybe, or
I'm
maybe
I'm
it is
uh
just,
I'm open to changing my mind, but I'm not the biggest fan of Sonic X. If I'm the big
oh yeah.
fan of this movie coming out, maybe I will check it out when it comes to Japan. Maybe I'll watch a Japanese dub, see how they do. Probably be Kanemaru who doing Sonic's voice again. I think he did the movie, right? See, this is how much I
Well,
know.
so it's interesting you say that because I do remember. I think they may actually have a different cast because they talked about, I guess whoever is voicing Shadow in the Japanese dub is the guy who voices Sephiroth in uh
Okay.
in the new Final Fantasy game.
Okay.
So
Huh.
maybe there's maybe they got some new people, which I would be kind of interesting because I know with Japan dub actors, like once you play a character, you play that character in everything until something happens or you die or you get
Yeah. What
disgraced.
do they call that? Was it typecasting? Like a lot of horror actors
Job
that have
security, really.
job security. It's not typecasting anymore. It's job security. Please. All right. I hear you. Gotcha. Yeah, well, that's all I got to say about that. Not to sound like Forrest Gump, but I'm sounding like Forrest Gump.
Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Well,
Well, again,
unless you have that little paper that tells you what it is, then
oh yeah,
then it is, yes.
yeah. Well, folks, again, coasters, thanks for stopping by. Hope we gave you a nice 20 minutes of entertainment. Again, we will be doing a more thorough review uh later in December, if not early January. We'll have some friends, we'll have some discussions, we'll talk about the movie, we'll talk about our thoughts and our feelings. We'll talk about where the franchise is going further because again, as kind of was kind of low key mentioned, you know, uh, there will be a Sonic 4. The series isn't ending. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm psyched.
All right, well, you got to go, my friend.
Well, how
Correct?
do we end this? How do we end this? We have like a do it to it. What do we do? How do we end this? We got to figure out how to end this. Anything you want to say before we go? Keep watching the
Nah,
stars.
keep watching the stars.
That's a
It's,
that's a
yeah,
reference from the Thing, not John Carpenter's one, but the
the OG.
yeah, the '50s one. The name I remember, J. Campbell Bruce, I think, is the writer. I can't remember
Okay, well,
the.
let's think of something more topical to the movie. So I will say,
Damn, not here. How about that? We'll just end there.
yeah,
All right. See you
I
guys.
found you, Faker.
Yeah, found. Well, I like damn not here.
All right, damn, not here it is. Damn, not here.
Bye.
Bye.
Damn, not here.